So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time. Now, needless to say this, you have to revise this lecture from the notes. Because if you're just watching this lecture and not revising it from the notes, well, these current affairs would quickly skip your memory. If you want to solidify them in your memory, at least till your exams, you have to revise them from the notes provided by us on our Telegram channel. Now, the link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section just below this video. Okay, so make sure that just after watching this lecture, you revise it as well. All right then, enough of the introduction. Let's straight away jump into the lecture. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. Okay, so let's begin. So, daily current affairs, 1st of December, Monday, and here is the topics list that I talked about. So, topic number 1 is related to fall in real exchange rate. The value of a rupee is falling, not just in nominal terms, but also in real terms. So what's the difference between nominal exchange rate and real exchange rate? We'll try to investigate that in this first topic. Okay. Topic number 2 is with respect to new seeds bill. Government will table a new bill in this session of parliament, winter session of parliament, to regulate the seeds. Okay, farm seeds. So we'll talk about this. Then government is going to replace GST compensation cess with a new cess on tobacco products and pan products, which are generally called sin goods. Okay, so what is a cess? How this new cess is going to be a replacement for the older cess? We'll talk about this thing. Okay, it is related to GST, by the way. And last topic is, well, a little bit of a depressing news, especially for environmental enthusiasts. The thing is that, well, all the rainforests of the world used to be considered carbon sinks. They used to absorb carbon from the atmosphere. But recently, because of deforestation, they have now become net carbon emitters. So this is sad news if you are really serious about fighting climate change. So we'll talk about this depressing development as well. Okay, so these are the 4 news items. Topic number 1 is related to economics portion of your UPSC syllabus. Topic number 2 is related to polity portion of your UPSC syllabus. Topic number 3 is a mix of 2, economics as well as polity, because we are going to talk about taxation, which is economics, plus taxation is also government's power. So economics plus polity portion of your UPSC syllabus. And last news item, well, it is clear-cut related to environment portion of your UPSC syllabus. Okay, so these are the 4 news items. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number 1, and that is fall in real exchange rate. Now, you must have heard about this news that rupee is constantly falling. Okay, falling as compared to what? As compared to dollar. If you have been following news and if you have been following exchange rates, dollar to rupee exchange rates, you must have noticed this, that for the past few months, rupee is constantly falling vis-a-vis dollar. $1 is equal to 84, then it's 86, then it's 88, and now it's 89. Okay, rupee has been constantly devaluing or depreciating vis-a-vis dollar. Now, this exchange rate that you constantly see in the newspaper, $1 is equal to 86 or 88, this is nominal exchange rate. Okay, but there is a thing called real exchange rate as well. Okay, now it was recently found out that rupee is falling not just in terms of nominal exchange rate, but also in terms of real exchange rate. Now, this is bad news for importers in India, but it's good news for exporters in India. How? How depreciating rupee is good news for exporters in India. We'll try to investigate all these things. Okay, so pay close attention, because through this article, some static concepts of your economics would also get cleared. So pay close attention. Okay, so fall in real exchange rate. So what was in the news? First, let's see that. So rupee breached 89 per US dollar for the first time and weakened not only against dollar, but also euro, pound, yen between 21st to 28th November, indicating broad-based depreciation. What used to happen earlier was that rupee used to depreciate only against US dollar. But this time around, rupee is also depreciating against other currencies as well. So when rupee was depreciating only against dollar, people used to say that rupee is not weakening, dollar is strengthening. Rupee is there only, dollar is strengthening. Okay, but now we can clear-cut say that rupee is actually weakening because it is weakening against all other currencies. Yes. Now, rupee's current fall is genuine, real depreciation driven by both nominal weakening and unusually low domestic inflation. Basically, what this statement says is that rupee's depreciation is both in nominal terms as well as in real terms as well. Okay, now for that you need to know these two exchange rates, nominal exchange rate and real exchange rate, right? So let me give you a brief overview. By the way, I explained this concept, nominal versus real, in extraordinary detail in my economics lectures, but we can't get into that extraordinary detail in current affairs lectures because we have to cover other current affairs as well. But I'll try to be as brief as possible. Side by side, I'll try to make sure that you understand the basic concepts. Okay, so pay close attention. So nominal versus real. Okay, so basically when you look at the news, $1 is equal to, let's suppose it is 85. Okay, $1 is equal to 85. This is nominal exchange rate. Simple, yes. Now when this 85 becomes 88, we say rupee has depreciated or devalued. Okay, and when this 85 becomes 81, then we say rupee has appreciated or revalued. Simple. Now the thing is, there is another way of looking at exchange rates, rupees value. Over here we are saying $1 is equal to 85 rupees. Yes. Now let me explain this to you very clearly. Pay close attention. Let's suppose $1 is today equal to 100 rupees. Let's suppose that is the situation now. Okay, we have reached that point where $1 is equal to 100 rupees. Let's suppose that is the case. Okay, now there are two ways of looking at this. One is in terms of dollar. How much rupees would buy you $1? Okay, then there is this another way. How many dollars can buy you 1 rupee? So can we say if $1 is equal to 100 rupees, 1 rupee is equal to 1 by $100? Yes, and that 1 by $100 is 0.01. Simple. So can we simply say that 1 rupee is equal to $0.01? Yes. Now listen to me carefully. When the value of this number increases, let's suppose it goes to 0.02. Okay, we say rupee has appreciated. And when the value of this declines, let's suppose it goes 0.001, 2 zeros and 1, then we'll say rupee has depreciated. Simple? Yes. So this is the thing. So if increase in number of this, 1 rupee is equal to more dollars, that means rupee has appreciated. 1 rupee is equal to less dollars, then depreciated. Yes or no? Clear? Now let's talk about real exchange rate. So this is what we talked about. This is nominal exchange rate. Okay, now what is real exchange rate? Now in one line, real exchange rate is nominal exchange rate adjusted for inflation. Adjusted for inflation. Okay, now how? Let me tell this to you. So let's talk about real exchange rate. So 1 rupee, let's suppose 1 rupee is equal to $0.01. But it was found out that in India, inflation is very high. As compared to USA, inflation is extremely high. As compared to USA. In USA, let's suppose it's 2%, and in India, it is 10%. So when we compare India's inflation with USA, India's inflation is high. This will increase this exchange rate. It will become, let's suppose, okay, when inflation is high in India. And when inflation is very low in India as compared to USA, this number will decrease. Okay, so just remember, real exchange rate is nominal exchange rate adjusted for inflation. Higher the inflation, higher the number. Lower the inflation, lower the number. And when real exchange rate increases, same as nominal exchange rate, it is called rupee has appreciated in real terms. When real exchange rate falls, we say same. Rupee has depreciated in nominal real terms. Okay, if this number increases, appreciation. If this number decreases, depreciation, D. Simple. And real exchange rate is nominal exchange rate adjusted for inflation. Simple. Okay. All right. Now one more thing that you need to know. Just remember that nominal exchange rate, if it is for dollar, then we'll say nominal exchange rate. If it is for rupee versus dollar, bilateral, nominal exchange rate, real exchange rate. But if we want to compare rupee vis-a-vis 40 other currencies, okay, what we do is we take an average of, weighted average of rupees exchange rate with dollar, with pound, with euro, and with 40 other currencies. We take an average, and that average comes out to be a number. Let's suppose it is X. That number is called nominal effective exchange rate. Similarly, when we take the average of rupees exchange rate with 40 other currencies in real terms, that is known as real effective exchange rate. When this number increases, appreciation. When this number falls, depreciation. Okay, simple. One more fact. When rupee appreciates, well, this is good news for importers, but bad news for exporters. Just remember this. And when rupee depreciates, well, it is bad news for importers, but exporters are very happy. Exporters are happy if rupee goes to $1 is equal to 200 rupees. Exporters will be very happy, but importers will be not happy because imported goods would become expensive, inflation would be high. This is the thing. Clear? Now let's talk about NEER versus REER. So nominal effective exchange rate and real effective exchange rate are index numbers capturing the rupee's value against 40 currencies. These 40 currencies are from those countries with which India has 88% of its trade. Now, since it is weighted average, there is a base year also. The base year for NEER and REER, remember, is 2015-16. Just remember this fact. Okay. NEER captures only nominal exchange rate movements, not adjusted for inflation. REER adjusts NEER for inflation. Okay. So if nominal exchange rate is this, but inflation in India is high, it will increase. If inflation in India is low, it will decrease. Now, what has happened recently? First of all, India's value is declining. So NEER is constantly declining. But the thing is, in India, inflation is extremely low. Last October, it was 0.25%. India's inflation is lower than rest of the world, very low, which has further pushed the number, and REER has also fallen. Okay. Now, both these numbers, when they fall, that means rupee has depreciated. Now, when rupee depreciates, importers won't be that happy, okay, because imported goods are becoming expensive. But exporters are dancing. They were suffering because of Donald Trump's tariff policy, but because of this, exporters are ecstatic. They are happy. Okay, so one good news from this, export. One bad news, import. Okay, now, what has driven this fall? What are the reasons? First of all, broad weakening of rupee against most global currencies. So already nominal exchange rate is falling. Then on top of that, inflation is also falling. Okay, so inflation is also falling, because of which real exchange rate has also declined. Simple, just remember this. And it has both positive and negative consequences. Positive consequence, well, exporters are happy. Negative consequence, well, importers are unhappy. Now the thing is that whenever generally rupee falls, RBI tries to stop that by selling dollars in the market. This is a way through which RBI stops falling rupee. But this time around, RBI did not intervene. RBI allowed rupee to fall further. The reason was because of Donald Trump's policy, because of Donald Trump's tariff policy, RBI wanted to help exporters. Therefore, it allowed rupee to slide. And RBI was not worried about importers because, well, if imported goods would become expensive, that would threaten inflation. But the thing is, our inflation numbers are already low. So RBI says, it's okay. Increase imported inflation, inflation in imported goods. We don't worry because inflation is already low. Let's help our exporters. That is why RBI has allowed this to fall. You understand now? Okay. So this is the thing. Now, IMF and RBI. In your notes, well, I have mentioned this fact that because RBI has allowed rupee to fall, IMF has praised RBI. IMF has said that earlier RBI used to intervene and artificially manipulate its currency. But now RBI allowed market to decide its currency exchange rate, and that is why they have put them into a good category. Stabilized to crawl-like category. All of that is mentioned in your notes, not that important. Just read it through. But I hope you understood these facts. Real exchange rate, REER, NEER, all these things. Okay. And remember the base year and the number of currencies. Okay. All right? All right then. That would be all as far as the first topic is concerned. Now let's quickly shift our focus to second topic, and that is New Seeds Bill. You see, the thing is that seeds in India are regulated by Seeds Act, which was a law under in 1960s. But under that law, there were various shortcomings, and that is why various duplicate seeds were being sold to farmers. Various spurious seeds, non-certified seeds were being sold to farmers, and because of that, farmers were suffering heavy losses. So we thought to replace the old law with a new law. And that is what the new seeds bill is, to regulate all the seeds so that farmers are, well, given certified proper seeds so that agriculture in India does not suffer. Okay. Now, this new seeds bill will be tabled in Parliament in this winter session. And how will this new seeds bill be an improvement upon the previous Seeds Act? What new provisions are being added? What are going to be its benefits? Let's talk about all these things. Okay, very quickly. So, new seeds bill. So, what was in the news? The draft Seeds Bill 2025 seeks to replace the outdated Seeds Act 1966 by mandating registration of seed varieties. So, all seeds that are now going to be manufactured have to be mandatorily registered so that government can certify whether this seed is proper or not for sale. Except those seeds which are, well, created by farmers. Farmers also do some type of breeding. They don't need to be registered. And those seeds which are for export only, they don't need to be registered because they are registered by export councils. Okay. All the other seeds will be registered. It imposes strict penalties up to 30 lakh and 3 years imprisonment for major offenses like selling spurious or unregistered seeds. So you have increased the punishment, and establish institutional mechanisms for quality regulation, for quality checks, for getting it registered, for getting it lab tested. Well, you have created institutions also under this new seed bill. Clear? So, what were the problems in the previous Seeds Act? So, regulates only notified seeds, excluding research hybrids, non-notified varieties, green manure, commercial plantation crop seeds. So, not all seeds were covered in the previous act. Plus, registration was voluntary, not compulsory. So people could sell normal seeds without getting them registered. So this increases duplication of seeds, okay, spurious seeds. So this was a problem. Plus earlier, the punishment was also low. 500 to 1000 rupees max was the fine, which people can now easily pay. Weak enforcement, no coverage of import, sales quality comprehensively, leading to persistent substandard seeds in the market. Farmers were getting substandard seeds. Over 43,000 non-standard seed samples detected in 5,97,859 tests, with West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh having the highest duplicate bad seeds. So this was the state of affairs. Now, what does the new bill do? Well, the new bill, first of all, make it mandatory. Registration is mandatory. All seeds for sale import must register with National Seed Variety Register. Existing notified seeds under 1966 are considered deemed registered. Okay. Central Seed Committee has been created with 27 members, which will create policy for seeds. Then, this Central Seeds Committee will have State Seeds Committee. Okay, they will handle local enforcement. Then penalties have been increased. Farmer safeguards. Farmers have been given this right to breed their own seeds, and they don't need to get it registered. But this exception is only for farmers, not seed companies. Okay, so these are the improvements. By the way, some extra information about Indian seeds market. Indian seeds market is worth 40,000 crore rupees. Okay, so it's a big market, and most of it was being duplicated. Okay, spurious. Quality issues persist despite surplus impacting productivity. Bill addresses via certification Indian minimum seed standards. All these things. Okay, but just remember this number: 40,000 crore rupees worth of seeds market. It has to be regulated. Okay, all right. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is health security, say national security, Cess. Okay. Now what is this Cess? The thing is that, well, there is a particular category of goods which are called sin goods, and then there is another category of goods called luxury goods. Now you all understand what do we mean by luxury goods, but what are sin goods? Sin means sin, S-I-N. Okay. Sin goods means that consumption of these goods is not considered good by society, is not considered healthy by society. For example, tobacco, liquor, all these goods are not considered I mean, their consumption is not considered good. Okay. Now, government taxes these thin goods and luxury goods heavily so as to discourage their consumption. Because when government taxes them heavily, their price increases, and government hopes that because they will become expensive, people will consume less of cigarettes. Okay. Now, earlier on cigarettes, GST used to be 28% as per the 4 slabs 0, 5, 12, 18, 28. GST on cigarettes used to be the highest, 28%. On top of that, there used to be a cess called GST compensation cess. The money collected from that cess was used to compensate states, because states were promised that if you'll shift to GST regime, you'll be compensated some money. So GST compensation cess was levied on these thin and luxury goods so as center can collect money and give it to states. Now, this GST compensation cess is going to expire on March 2026. So government is already preparing to tax these thin and luxury goods at a higher rate. Okay, so for that, government is bringing a new bill. So let's discuss this, okay? And we'll also discuss what is a cess. Okay, all right. So what is in the news? So Centre is introducing Central Excise Bill and Health Security say National Security Cess Bill in Parliament winter session to replace lapsing GST compensation cess with higher excise duty on tobacco products and new capacity linked cess on pan masala. What is the aim of what are the aims of these two new bills? To protect tax incidents, okay, which means that tax should fall on consumer to protect. I mean, many cigarette manufacturers were evading taxes. So to stop that, national security, to collect money for national security through this new cess, defense, and public health, because increased taxes would increase the prices. So maybe some people would stop buying cigarettes and pan masala because now they have become expensive. So that is the idea. Now, first of all, what is a cess? So basically, cess is a tax on tax. So let's suppose you are buying this pen. On this pen, there is 28% GST. Okay. So for example, this pen costs 100 rupees. So 28% GST would be rupees 28. On this extra 28 rupees, which is the tax, there will be a 10% cess. This 10% cess would be levied on this extra tax. So that is why it is called tax on tax. Now, cess is levied for a specific purpose. Okay, so if it's written Swachh Bharat cess, the money collected through that cess will only go towards Swachh Bharat. If it is written education cess, the money collected from that cess will only go towards education. If it's written GST compensation cess, the money collected from that will only go to states for GST compensation. You understand? Now, government is saying that we are levying health securities and national security cess. That means the money collected from this cess will only go towards health security and national security, defense spending. Okay, so these are the key features of a cess. It is purpose specific. You have to specify the purpose for which this money will be used. It is temporary in nature. It is central government control. Okay, the money collected from a cess will only go to central government, never state governments. Remember this fact. And it is levied on existing tax. Okay, simple. Now, what are the changes? First of all, you need to know about GST compensation cess. Okay, so introduced under GST Act 2017 to guarantee states 14% compounded growth for 5 years. Basically, states were not ready to get into GST. They were happy with their previous tax regime. So government told them that the thing is, let's suppose your previous taxes, the revenue generated from previous taxes would increase 14% every year. So that extra money, after levying GST, let's suppose through previous regime you would have earned 100 rupees. Through GST you will earn 80 rupees. So that extra 20 rupees shortfall will be compensated by us. And we know this shortfall will increase every year by 14%. So we will increase our shortfall compensation also. For this reason, compensation cess was levied. It was levied on thin and luxury goods. Okay, so 28% GST plus cess. But you all know, we have discussed this. We are now in GST 2.0. In that, this 28% has been removed and now cigarettes have 40% GST plus cess. Okay. Now, when this agreement will expire, you know what the government is planning to do? 40% GST plus another tax, which is central excise duty. On top of that, there will be this cess, health securities and national security cess. This is the idea. Okay, now details about these two bills, health securities and national security cess and central excise duty amendment bill, is given in your notes, so go through that. But the whole idea of including this news item was, well, to let you know about cess and GST compensation cess. I hope you understood that. Okay, and now let's quickly shift our focus to last news item of the day, and that is carbon sink to carbon source. You see, the thing is that forests are important. It is very important to conserve forests. Why? Well, forests act as carbon sink. How? Well, what do forests do? Forests have plants. Plants perform photosynthesis. Now, what happens in photosynthesis? In photosynthesis, plants absorb carbon dioxide from the air and release oxygen. That's what happens. So if there is a healthy forest, it will absorb more carbon dioxide, thereby reducing the effects of global warming. Now, this job was performed very well by Amazon rainforests, then African rainforests, then Southeast Asia, Indonesian rainforests. Now, because of deforestation, expansion of agriculture, all these rainforests have now become net carbon emitters. They were earlier carbon sinks. Now, in net terms, they do still perform photosynthesis, but they emit more carbon dioxide than they absorb. This is really bad news for those who are fighting against climate change. So, what are the reasons behind this transition from carbon source to carbon sink to carbon source? Let's investigate that. And what sort of international initiatives have been launched to stop this? Let's talk about this, okay? So, carbon sink to carbon source. So, what was in the news? So, Africa's forests and woody savannas, the grasslands, historically absorbing over 1 billion tons of CO2 annually via photosynthesis, have flipped from a net carbon sink to source post 2010. Why? Because of increased deforestation, degradation in tropical moist broadleaf forests. Now, why is there deforestation? What are the reasons? First of all, agricultural expansion, then requirement for fuel wood, then mining activities, infrastructure activities, and wildfires. Wildfires have also increased, forest fires. All these activities emit carbon dioxide. Agriculture does emit carbon dioxide. Fuel wood burning emits carbon dioxide. Mining, infrastructure, and wildfires do emit carbon dioxide. So these forests, which were global carbon sinks, have now become global carbon emitters. This is really terrible news, alarming news. Okay? Now, what impact will these have on global climate? All three global rainforests, Amazon, Southeast Asia, and Africa, are now net emitters. What are the drivers of this transition? We have discussed this: agricultural expansion, fuel wood, infrastructure, mining, everything. Now, the problem with this is, this exasperates global warming as forests emit stored carbon faster than absorption. Because now you'll deforest them, burn them, they will emit more carbon dioxide. Because carbon dioxide absorption through photosynthesis is slow, but emission is fast. When you burn a tree, it will emit all the carbon dioxide. But when that tree absorbs carbon dioxide, it takes a lifetime. It slowly absorbs carbon dioxide. So this is a problem. Africa's forests are no longer buffers. Buffer as in whatever carbon you used to emit through pollution used to get absorbed by African forests. They are no longer that buffers. So this is a problem. This is a problem how? It violates Paris Agreement. It violates Glasgow Leaders Declaration, the declaration said that we will end deforestation by 2030. So this is a problem. Okay? Yes, though international community has launched an initiative to stop all of that. That we have already discussed. Tropical Forest Forever initiative, which was launched in Brazil this year. India is also an observer member in this. So this basically aims to restore forest health. But let's see how it performs. Let's see. This is dangerous news, by the way. And that would be all. With that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it will add more value if you're consistent and regular. And you do not forget to revise this lecture from the notes provided by us on our Telegram channel. So in the hope that you're going to do that, I shall take your leave with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.